and Nicole Costa.
Before we start, can we give a round of applause to the CHE hospitality team for all their support? We would also like to thank all of you in the audience for coming here and supporting us in our journey. Give yourself a pat on the back.
Today, we'll be taking a cruise through the Institute for Cultural Communicators, featuring presentations by our MA1 chapter members, some acknowledgments, and a special presentation by the one and only Samuel Respondet.
At ICC, our vision is to turn ordinary students into extraordinary leaders. We develop the whole person for their future by focusing on competence, character, and connection. Not only that, but we also provide plenty of fun activities to help students build their communication skills and be ready to speak. The public speaking program is a discipleship and mentorship vehicle where parents and adults mentor older students, and older students are equipped to mentor and be the example for their younger peers, inspired by the principle of 1 Timothy 4:12.
Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the following video on the ICC 412 event made by the student leaders. It will then be followed by a presentation by our very own MA1 chapter on the importance of mentorship.
Here's the deal. Young people my age are not prepared for the real world. We aren't equipped to set an example that reflects Christ in our culture. Just think about it. When's the last time you looked at a teenager like me and thought to yourself, wow, I want to speak just like she does? It's probably been a while. We have forgotten Paul's advice to Timothy. Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers.
Our culture, my generation, is in desperate need of examples worth following. When we speak, whether it's in person, on the phone, even a post on Facebook, we struggle to clearly say what we mean.
We use the excuse, we're young, so what we do doesn't really matter.
When I look around, I don't see people my age loving the way Jesus modeled love. I see love being tossed around as a word with little meaning.
I have found an answer, and I want to share it with you.
Paul's call to Timothy was to set an example for the believers, starting with speech. Here's what happens at a 412 event.
Students like me are equipped to be the example our culture needs.
412 is a safe place where my ideas, my thoughts, and my beliefs don't just sit in my head.
A place where peers from my generation show me how to share what I believe in a way that impacts others.
Paul doesn't end with speech. He calls Timothy and us to set an example
In our conduct, our love, our faith, and our purity.
because we aren't called to simply complain there aren't any good examples.
We are called to be the example.
This reading was composed by ICC alum Alan Ramsey and Susanna Coffin, and includes wisdom from the New Testament, excerpts from The Orphan Generation by Dr. Scott Wiltshire, and The Mentor Leader by Tony Induction.
Who will help me become the person God designed me to be?
Who will teach me without looking down on me?
Who will walk into this mess I call my life and show me some direction?
Who will love me before I get there, rather than controlling me or trying to fix me?
You mentor the next generation.
You are our guides.
By your mentoring, you help us embrace the power of God and follow His calling.
He uses you to transform us.
Am I a mentor? I can't even give directions to the nearest bus stop.
Remember the time you taught me how to tie my shoes? I do.
I can't change someone's life. I'm just someone from a small town, typical life.
Remember the time you just listened to me? I do.
I try to set an example, but no one ever notices.
Remember the time
You paid for the person in the line behind us. I do.
That's a high bill.
What do I have to give to anyone else? What would they want?
Remember the time you told me the story of the mistake you made when you were my age? I do.
Remember your leaders who taught you the word of God. Think of all the good that has come from their lives and follow their example of their faith. Hebrews 13:7.
You mentor us through your stories.
You changed my life the day you asked me about my dreams for the future.
You gave me hope and encouragement when you asked about my problems.
You made yourself vulnerable so I could be stronger. You showed me Jesus when you humbled yourself like he did.
Jesus knew that God had given him authority over everything, and that he had come from God and would return to God.
So he got up from the table, took off his robe, wrapped a towel around his waist, and poured water into a basin. Then he began to wash the disciples' feet, drying them with the towel he had around him.
We must have the same attitude that Christ Jesus had.
Though he was God, he did not think of equality with God as something to cling to.
Instead, he gave up his divine privileges. He took the humble position of a slave and was born a human being.
By your mentoring, God transforms us. And now we are agents of transformation because we have been transformed.
Relationships are ultimately what matter. The key to becoming a mentor is learning how to put other people first.
By touching the lives of the people right around us, we create value far beyond the small sphere that we can reach.
We press on with faith in things unseen, knowing that God walks with us.
Who knows which life will be different for all of eternity?
Keep investing in the lives around you. Keep being the first to arrive and the last to leave.
Keep helping us grow.
Keep sharing your stories.
God transforms us through you.
Hi guys, I'm Victor Alex News. I'd like to teach you all the banana clap. So everyone, please stand up with me. Now everyone, pretend you're holding an imaginary banana in your hand, right? Now you gotta peel the sides off. Woo, woo, woo. Now you gotta clap. Hurry, eat it before it falls. That's a taste banana, right? Everyone, that's the banana clap. Our next speaker is someone very important to me. She loves graphic design, walking her dogs, and hanging out with family and friends. Let's give a warm welcome to Alexa News.
Thank you for the lovely introduction, Victor. So today, I will be presenting to you all a speech on my favorite Bible verse and the way that it relates to our everyday speech. The verse is Proverbs 25:11. A word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in pitchers of silver. The way that this verse relates to everyday speech is when we say anything nice or a good compliment or a good advice, and that affects someone else in a positive way. Like, we might even have an idea about how a simple compliment or a good advice could affect someone else in a positive way. An example of something positive is when I got baptized. When I got baptized, I had written my testimony, and it was saying how I did through writing enough. But through the grace and mercy of God, as well as going to church every Sunday, reading His Word, and praying, I learned that there was no such thing as ever being ready enough. And after the sermon that day, a mom of a friend of mine came up to my mom and said how my testimony had affected her daughter in a positive way. Because it turns out that her daughter was feeling the same way as me, not ready enough. But after she heard my testimony, she too realized that there is no such thing as ever being ready enough. And now that same girl is looking forward to the day that she's going to get baptized. Now for the opposite, how a mean comment will affect someone else in a negative way. An example of something negative is you're at school. At school there are all kinds of people, good and bad. Someone tells you, oh, your hair looks like a rat's nest, or you have a terrible sense of style, or you're too tall, you're too short. That doesn't feel good, and that brings us down. And we don't want to send a bad impression of ourselves to someone else. So we should take this first into consideration the next time you're speaking to or about someone, in order that our words glorify God. Thank you.
That was a great speech, Alexia. Hi, I'm Jamie, and this is Josh, and today will be your
Energizer.
during all of these great speeches. So everyone please stand up and stretch with us.
First, when you go all the way up, get up there, really reach. Get your fingies up there.
Now we're going to reach as far as we can, all the way to your right without moving your feet. As far as you can reach. Okay. Now all the way to your left, as far as you can go. Okay.
Now, how about let's try that banana clap that Victor taught us. You ready? 3, 2, 1. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Oh, that's good. That's really good. You know what's even better?
Why would you do that?
Our next speaker, he's actually 8 years old. He loves to play, sorry, you may be seated. Our next speaker, who's actually 8 years old, he loves playing soccer, drawing, and playing Minecraft, and spending time with his family. Can we please give a warm welcome to Alexander Green?
Hi guys, today I'll be presenting a poem to you. Light of the World by Louis Spoon. The sun is like a golden lamp that shines so wide and tall. No one can turn it off and on or blow it out at all. High in the sky, it keeps me warm. And strange as this may be, 1,000 sunshine vitamins so bright inside of me. But God sent forth a greater light that blinded eyes may see. He sent his sun to my dark heart. Oh, may he shine through me. Our next speaker's passions include art, acting, and gymnastics. Please give a round of applause to David Costa. Thank you, Alexander. I would like to present a story about a shepherd and a wolf. A wolf had been prowling around a flock of sheep for a long time, and the shepherd watched anxiously to prevent the wolf from carrying off the lamb. But the wolf did not try to do any harm. Instead, he seemed to be helping the shepherd take care of the sheep. At last, the shepherd got so used to seeing the wolf about that he forgot how wicked it could be. One day, he even went so far as to leave the flock in the wolf's care while he went on an errand. But when he came back, he saw how many of the flock had been killed and carried off, and he knew how foolish it was to trust a wolf. The moral of the story is, once a wolf, always a wolf. Thank you. I would like to introduce our next speaker, who just so happens to be my brother. He enjoys computer science, pickleball, and Tabasco sauce. Please give a warm welcome to Kyle Costa.
Hello everyone. I would like to share a story with you that you've probably heard before. It's a story from the Bible about a little girl and a poor, frail lady. There once was a little girl who didn't get out of bed one morning, or the next. In fact, she didn't get out of bed for an entire month. She was very sick, and nobody knew how to make her better. Now, Jairus was her daddy, and he loved her. One day, he was sitting by her bed, holding her hand, wishing that only there was something he could. No, he replied. So he got up, put on his coat, kissed his daughter, ran down the steps, past the servants, opened the door, went through the streets, up the steps to the temple, fought his way through the crowd, until he found the person he was looking for. Jesus! He called out. My daughter! Please! But Jairus didn't need to say anything because Jesus already knew what he needed. I'll come at once, he said. And Jairus' eyes filled with tears. Jesus was coming. It would be all right. In those days, of course, they didn't have ambulances, so they had to travel by foot. Now, Jesus' disciples knew that Jesus could heal the sick girl, but they had to hurry, because if they didn't get there soon enough, it would be too late. The problem is, everyone was in the way, hustling and bustling, jostling and pressing, squishing and squashing. The disciples went ahead, forcing back the crowd. But then Jesus stopped. The disciples looked back. What was he doing? Who touched me? Jesus asked, because he felt power had gone out from him. Me, said a lady who was looking down at the ground because she was so ashamed. Now this poor lady had been sick for 12 years, and she had to get well. She knew that if she only reached out and touched Jesus' coat, she would be healed. So she went ahead, touched Jesus' coat. Instantly, she was well. We don't have time, Jesus' disciples shouted. But Jesus always had time. So he kneeled over and lifted the woman's gaze to meet his. You believe, he smiled, and now you are well. Just then, Jairus' servant rushed over. It's too late, he said. Your daughter is dead. Jesus looked over at Jairus. It's never too late, he said. Now, at Jairus' house, everyone was crying because the girl had died. But then Jesus came over and said, I'm going to wake her up. Everyone there laughed at him. They knew that she was dead, not asleep. So Jesus walked inside, and there in the corner was a still little figure. So Jesus walked over, kneeled down, took her pale hand, and said, honey, it's time to get up. And he reached down into death and brought the little girl back to life. The girl got up, rubbed her eyes, she just had a good dream, and jumped out of bed. Jesus threw open the shutters and sunlight flooded the dark room. Are you hungry? He asked. Nodded. Jesus called out to the girl's family. Bring this little girl some breakfast. Jesus helped and healed many people, just as he had done on this day. He made the blind see, he made the deaf hear, and he made the crippled walk again. Jesus was making the sad things come untrue. He was healing God's broken world. The end. Now, our next speaker is someone very near and dear to my heart, not only because she's my fellow co-host, but also because she's my sister, Nicole Costa. But today is a very special day for her, because today she turns 15 years old. Please remember to wish her happy birthday later. Anyways, she enjoys theater, video editing, and walking her dogs on the beach. So please give a round of applause to Nicole Costa.
God had a job for Jonah, but Jonah didn't want it. Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be reenacting the story of Jonah and the whale. Go to Nineveh, God said, and tell your worst enemies that I love them. No, said Jonah. They're bad people, doing bad things. Exactly, said God. They have run far away from me, but I can't stop loving them. I will give them a new start. I will forgive them. No, said Jonah. They don't deserve it. I'll run away, Jonah thought to himself. So far away that even God won't be able to find me. It's a good plan, he thought to himself. But of course, it wasn't a good plan at all. Because you can try running away from God, but he will always come and find you. So Jonah went ahead with his not very good plan. One ticket to not Nineveh, please, he said, and boarded a boat sailing in the very opposite direction of Nineveh. Well, it wasn't long before a fierce wind started to blow, and the boat started to lurch and pit and roll, and everyone started turning green. You see, the first thing that went wrong with Jonah's not very good plan is that God sent a big storm after him. The sailors couldn't sail their ship properly. "We're sinking!" they screamed and started throwing everything they had on board, suitcases, food, and whatever they could find. Soon enough, Jonah realized that the storm was his fault. "Throw me instead," he shouted, "and the storm will stop." The sailors weren't sure. "It's the only way you can be saved." And so, 1, 2, 3, splash! No sooner had Jonah hit the water that the waves died down, the wind grew calm, and the storm stopped. Just then, when Jonah thought it was all over, when he was sure he was going to drown, God sent a big fish to rescue him. The fish swallowed Jonah whole with one big gulp. Jonah must have thought he'd died. It was so dark in there. It was like a tomb. But when he smelled the rotting fish and felt the slimy seaweed, he knew he wasn't dead. He was in the belly of the fish. Sitting there in the darkness for 3 whole days, Jonah had plenty of time to think. Pretty soon he realized this plan was not a good plan at all. He prayed to God from inside the fish and asked God to forgive him. After 3 whole days, the fish spat Jonah out to safety on a warm, sandy beach. Just then, he heard someone calling his name. "Go to Nineveh," God said. And this time, Jonah said, yes! He went straight to Nineveh to tell everyone God's wonderful message. Even though you've gone far away from him, he can't stop loving you. Run to him so he can forgive you. Soon enough, the people of Nineveh started loving God too. They learned to stop running away from him and do what God said, just like Jonah. Many years later, God would send another messenger with the same wonderful message. Like Jonah, he would spend 3 days in utter darkness. But this messenger would be God's own son. He would be called the Word, because he was everything God wanted to say to the whole world in one person. The end. YCC stands for Young Communicators for Christ, and their students are children ages 6 to 10 years old. They are learning how to present impromptu speeches, simple storytelling, humors, and much more. Today, I'd like to invite 2 of our adorable young chapter members, Alec and Elisa Nunes, to present a poem. They will then be joined by the rest of the YCC students to present a chant to help us remember how to be better speakers.
Hello everyone, my name is Elisa Nunes. I'm 6 years old. This is my brother. Hi everyone, my name is Alec and I'm 4. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. 3-second rule. 1, 2, 3, oh yeah! Projection, inflection, don't give us a frown. Smile, speak clearly, and never look down. Don't mumble, don't grumble, make sure you're prepared. Stay in your allotted time and try not to look scared. 3-second rule. 1, 2, 3, oh yeah! I want to introduce Jacobette, my awesome sister. She likes to crochet and is a really good soccer player. She is also a very entertaining speaker. Let us welcome Jacobette Cristande as she retells a famous story. Thank you, Daddy. Once there was a tree, and she loved a little boy. And every day the boy would come, and he would gather her leaves and make them into crowns and play king of the forest. He would climb up her trunk and swing from her branches and eat apples. And they would play hide and go seek. And when he was tired, he would sleep in her shade. And the boy loved the tree very much. And the tree was happy. But time grew older, and the tree was often alone. Then one day the boy came to the tree, and the tree said, "Come, boy, come, climb up my trunk and swing from my branches, and eat apples and play in my shade, and be happy." "I am too big to climb and play," said the boy. "I want to buy things and have fun. I want some money. Can you give me money?" "I'm sorry," said the tree, "but I have no money. I have only leaves and apples. Take my apples, boy, and sell them in the city. Then you will have money, and you will be happy." And so the boy climbed up the tree and gathered her apples and carried them away. And the tree was happy. But the boy stayed away for a long time. And then one day, the boy came to the tree, and the tree shook with joy, and she said, "Come, boy, come, climb up my trunk and swing from my branches and be happy." "I am too busy to climb trees," said the boy. "I want a house to keep me warm," he said. "I want a wife and I want children, and so I need a house. Can you give me a house?" "I have no house," said the tree. "The forest is my house, but you may cut off my branches and build a house. Then you will be happy." And so the boy cut off her branches and carried it away to build his house. And the tree was happy. But the boy stayed away for a long time. And when he came back, the tree was so happy she could hardly speak. "Come, boy," she whispered. "Come and play." "I am too old and sad to play," said the boy. "All the boat that day will take me far away from here. Can you give me a boat?" "Cut down my trunk and make a boat. Then you can sail away and be happy." And so the boy cut down her trunk and made a boat and sailed away. And the tree was happy. But not really. And after a long time, the boy came back again. "I'm sorry," sighed the tree, "but I have nothing left to give you. My apples are gone." "My teeth are too weak for apples," said the boy. "My branches are gone," said the tree. "You cannot swing on them." "I am too old to swing on branches," said the boy. "My trunk is gone," said the tree. "You cannot climb." "I am too tired to climb trees," said the boy. "I'm sorry," said the tree. "I wish that I could give you something, but I have nothing left. I am just an old stump. I am sorry." "I don't need very much now," said the boy. "There's a quiet place to sit and rest." "Well," said the tree, straightening up herself as well as she could. "Well, an old stump is good for sitting and resting. Come, boy, come. Sit down and rest." And the boy did. The theme of the story I just presented to you is about giving. But there's an ultimate giver. God gave us his only and most precious Son, Jesus Christ, to die on the cross to save us from our sins. Thank you.
Thank you for that wonderful speech, Jacobin. Hello, we're back. Will everyone please stand up and stretch with us one more time?
Okay, again, everybody, we're gonna reach all the way up high in the sky. Reach, get your little fingies in there, and
Actually, we're going to teach you guys one more clap. It's called the donut clap.
Oh, yes.
So the first step is,
Imagine you have a box of donuts. And imagine you open the box of donuts. And as you open it, the sound comes out.
but then you got a whole bunch of donuts that are just sitting there delicious. So then you got to eat them all. So you go,
But now, your hands are covered in glaze and powdered sugar. So what do?
Lick them.
that's how you do the donut clap.
Listen up, everyone. At ICC, we often have our students present their personal testimonies. And we would like to introduce Stefan Christande as he shares his testimony about his struggles with food intolerance.
Thank you, Kyle, for that wonderful introduction. It is hard seeing people eat yummy food like pizza, burgers, and warm, crunchy chicken wings, which can use wheat for the main ingredient. And all I have is food that is just not the same. Allergies are an inconvenience to people, keeping them away from food that they can consider delicious. I have the wretched gluten intolerance, which prevents me from eating anything associated with wheat. The gluten intolerance is like an allergy, just less fatal. Hello everyone, my name is Stefan Christande, and I am part of the Institute of Cultural Communicators in the chapter of MA1. Today I will be presenting a speech about one of my main challenges in life, my gluten intolerance. I wasn't gluten-free my whole life. It all started on September of 2017 when my mom took me to a doctor. My mom was always wondering why I was often not feeling well, having pain in my leg, and had growing problems. The doctor said that a gluten-free diet might be the solution to my problem. I stopped eating gluten, and my mom instantly saw a difference. The whole family became gluten-free for simpler cooking. We found out some of the foods we liked in the gluten-free version. It wasn't all bad. Early 2019, before the coronavirus lockdown, we heard the news that we will be moving from Singapore to the States. Even though I was sad for leaving my friends and home in Singapore, I remember my dad telling me that there will be more gluten-free food in America. In the States, I went to a doctor, and they said that I might not actually have the gluten intolerance. I was delighted. My family went on a test to see if we still had to go gluten-free or not. We started eating gluten again for the month of August, which was my birthday month. Soon after the month, I went to the doctor again, and they still said that I do not have the gluten intolerance. However, during the month, I always felt weird around my stomach. I told myself it was probably because I haven't eaten gluten in a long time. We somehow found out that I actually had the gluten intolerance. I went back to a gluten-free diet, but constantly comforted myself that there was still plenty of good gluten-free food. Though it was hard seeing my family eat the food that was taken away from me because of my diet. The intolerance also affected my height a lot. Many times I will be treated differently because I looked young. However, as my time as a hobbit, I had many advantages, like fitting through slim holes to obtain items. The struggles are still hard. Seeing my family eat, order tasty gluten food while I just have something gluten-free is tough and sometimes cause me to be selfish and protect the gluten-free food and snacks. In these times, they often make me think about people who are less fortunate than me. I was born into a very blessed family, where there was plenty of gourmet food to eat no matter what. Being gluten-free reminded me on how to be more thankful. The intolerance also helped me practice self-control. Seeing all the mouth-watering gluten food on one side of the table can really test your heart. Having allergies or intolerances is horrible and sometimes unfair. but life isn't fair for the most of it. Even though I wonder why, even though it was hard having to go on a diet, it taught me things that will help in shaping my character. Sometimes I wonder why God let me have this inconvenience, but I know that one day everything bad will turn into the better. As for Romans 8 verse 28 says, and we know that those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to His purpose.
Yes.
Thank you for listening to my words.
Now that was a wonderful message, Stellan. Now pay attention, everyone, because our next speaker has some important events about recent events in our ICT chapter. I'm, of course, referring to none other than our area coordinator, Miss Cindy Clarkin. All right, thank you. Oh my goodness, this has been such an amazing group of young people who are just expressing their love for God and their love for their audience. Is that amazing? So give them a round of applause. This chapter, they call themselves Massachusetts 1 because they're the first chapter in Massachusetts to represent the Institute for Cultural Communicators in this area. And they have a big vision of maybe including all of you that are visiting to inquire about how you can start something in your area or in your, this could just multiply, right? That's what we would like. So they started this summer with a request to teach some of the students, at actually the request of Samuel, to teach some of the students how to be student leaders like Samuel. And so in the beginning of June, I believe, I started meeting on Zoom with two amazing teenagers, Kyle and Nicole, and James. And when I was meeting with those, so there's three, I can't even count. And then we went through the Young Speakers Guild, which is something that we're doing today. We're doing the Guild Induction in Samuel that's coming up next. So these two young people, though, did continue, Kyle and Nicole, so I'm going to have them come up. And they are going to get a certificate because they finished phase 1 in just a little over 6 months, which is a great. Certificate. So, do you want to have? Okay, so he's going to take a picture right there. Okay, come on.
We did.
All right. All right. So that's a great accomplishment. And there are 3 phases in the Young Speakers Guild. So Kyle and Nicole are now going to start phase 2. And then we are going to now introduce Samuel, who has finished phase 3. So the Institute for Cultural Communicators, we're going to still work on that. So in the Institute for Cultural Communicators, as they go through the phases, they keep something called a portfolio. So when they're doing a portfolio, they can actually show progress. Isn't that what a portfolio is? So while Kyle and Nicole were going through phase 1, they were having pictures taken, they were writing speeches, they were performing on platforms. There it is, a platform. And that was all being recorded. Samuel started probably when he was about 11, and he lived in Singapore. 10? 9. Okay, 9. And there's pictures. We're going to see the pictures. We're going to get the aww. Okay. So what happens is when he's finished with his 3rd phase of the Young Speakers Guild, he can do what's called Speech 10, which you're going to see. Now, there's a little bit of a thing that he's going to do here. He has themed it after what? Minecraft. He is going to tell you speeches that he did, and he'll kind of bring you back in time to his very little 11-year-old or 9-year-old Samuel, and then he'll come back over here to this side of the stage, and he'll talk about the journey that he's going on and all the things that he's learned through the Institute of Cultural Communicators through all 3 phases. So Samuel is an amazing young man. I just had to tell one Minecraft story. I got to travel with him last year to one of our retreats down in Tennessee. And on the way back, he was in the airport, and of course he has a computer open, and he's on Minecraft. And his other buddy, Ben, they're both looking at the Minecraft, comparing notes on their Minecraft world. And this little boy
comes sneaking over. And he looks at the screen. And Samuel just welcomed him right in, sit right next to him. He's like, how did you do that? And how did you do that? And Samuel was giving him tips. And it was just so beautiful because the little boy, I think, was what, 5 or 6. So here he was, just so willing to talk to a total stranger, little boy. The mom was just like, I have never met a teenager like that. Because usually they would be more like, hey, look at my stuff. You know, something like that, right? So it was just a beautiful experience for me to see Samuel so lovingly welcoming a total stranger into his Minecraft world. So without any further ado, let's welcome Samuel and Kristen Day.
So I was prepared to hold a microphone and a clicker today, but none of those worked. So now I just have 2 free hands where I can fully act out my presentation. So I'm just going to get started. I was 9 years old on that fateful day. The day I was told by my mom that I would be joining a chapter, which was a community of an organization, as some of you know, ICC. The full name of this organization was the Institute for Cultural Communicators. Its goal was to teach students public speaking, social skills, and leadership traits. Since I was 9 years old, ICC put me in what was called the Young Communicators for Christ. This was the first one of 2 and the more basic stage of the student journey in ICC. Once I turned 11 years old, I graduated from YCC into the Young Speakers Guild, YSG. This was the true student journey in the Institute for Cultural Communicators. The Young Speakers Guild was divided into 3 phases: YSG 1, YSG 2. You guys said YSG. As a new YSG 1er, the first presentation that I would have to make in the Young Speakers Guild would be called Hello, My Name Is. This was a personal introduction for myself, me introducing myself as a new YSG 1er to my chapter in Singapore. And this is 11-year-old me, as some of you might have guessed, giving that presentation. And this is how it went. Do you know anybody that is a CIA? Well, I'm one, and my name is Samuel Andrew Cristante. CIA stands for Chinese, Indonesian, and American. After I had introduced myself, I went on to name some of my personal hobbies and favorites. I like playing Lego, mostly building buildings and making houses and making movies with it. I also play Roblox. My favorite sport is football. Soccer. Football. I sometimes watch the matches and I play futsal, which is like a mini version of the sport. I also collect player cards, and my favorite soccer player is Pele. All the Brazilians are like you know, they don't know what I'm talking about. Thank you. This concludes my presentation. No, that's not the done of my presentation. It's just that presentation. The next presentation that I had to make was something a bit more personal. It was called My Favorite Bible Verse. Now, she presented this presentation as well, but in this presentation, I had to share my favorite Bible verse and a story that would go, a personal story that would go along with it. I don't actually have a favorite Bible verse, so I'm going to share my most helpful one. I used to have a bad temper, but thanks to Galatians 5 verse 22 to 23, I learned to be better each and every day. Galatians 5 verse 22 to 23 says, and I quote, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law." End quote. I need self-control to keep my temper. And the last presentation that I would be making in the Young Speakers Guild Phase 1 would be something called literary interpretation. In this topic, I had to tell a story in a dramatized way that would make it more interesting and immersive for the audience. For this presentation, I chose to do the story of Black Beauty. Anna Sewell wrote this story because she wanted to tell people how horses felt when they were treated badly. And this version I'm going to share with you all today has been told by Alan Marks. As a young horse, I was flourishing. I played with other colts by day and slept by my mother's side by night. One day, a man came to our farm. Beautiful, he said, stroking the white star on my forehead. I'll buy you. Be brave, Black Beauty, said my mother. For all young horses must leave their mothers and make their way into the world. But remember, never bite, won't dear, or kick. And whatever happens, always do your best. In addition to those presentations that you had to make in the first phase of the Young Speakers Guild, ICC would have you get started on an activity called impromptu speaking. In this activity, students were given 1 minute to prepare a 2-minute presentation on any random given topic. Some of these topics would be like, how does a soft answer turn away anger and explain beauty? As you can see, in the first phase of the Young Speakers Guild, in your first year, ICC seeks to teach its new students about the most basic areas of public speaking. This would be personal introductions, personal stories and testimonies, my favorite Bible verse, and dramatization and thinking on the spot. In addition to those 4 basic aspects of public speaking, I also learned some of ICC's values. I won't get into much of that, but those values still continue to impact my outlook on the world around me. Another thing I learned from ICC, the ICC regularly references Paul from the New Testament. Why? Because Paul is an evangelist, a missionary, and a public speaker. So as an ICC student, I should strive to be like him. Adapt, overcome, and improvise when it comes to situations where I need to share a message to a crowd. A good example of Paul's public speaking skills can be found in Acts 17, verse 22 to 23. Paul then stood up in the meeting of the Areopagus and said, "People of Athens, I see that in every way you are very religious. For as I walked around and looked at your objects of worship, I even found an altar with this inscription, 'To an unknown God.' So, you are very ignorant of the very thing you worship, and this is what I am going to proclaim to you." As can be seen here, Paul first addresses his audience by their name, the people of Athens, and then seeks to relate the message of Christ as the answer to an unknown God that they had written on those altars that he had mentioned. Another thing I learned from ICC is a concept they devised to help their students learn every area of public speaking, the pre and post of public speaking. This would be PQ plus RQ equals CQ. What this means is purpose, prepare, present, plus rate, respond, and record, and if done correctly, should equal in a competent, character-driven communicator. So, the first step I would like to explain is purpose. This is the why. Why are you sharing this story? Why are you sharing that story? Why should I listen to your story? Believe it or not, the answer to this question might be deeper than you might think. As some people would know, I currently live in the United States, in Boxford, Massachusetts. I've lived here for about 4 years now, and I was just 16. I'm 16 years old now, so I had just turned 12 months prior to my age. This story of me and my family moving to the United States became a story that I could share with people, a testimony. And if you don't already know, a testimony is one of the most effective ways to share about your beliefs. And in my case, about Christ. So maybe your goal, your purpose, is to be able to effectively share about Christ. Prepare. Now, this step is obviously as crucial as the rest. This includes writing the script, practicing the script, and memorizing the script. And sometimes doing research where necessary. In my informative presentations, Planes of the World War II, and Should Styrofoam Be Banned, I had to do proper research and cite sources where necessary. For these two presentations, I even made visual aids to go along with the presentation and make it more interesting for our audience. And practice. Practice, practice, practice. Practice and memorization intertwine a lot. A good lesson of that why can be found in my time trying to memorize my presentation, Dewi Sri. Dewi Sri is an Indonesian folktale about the story of rice. This was done as part of cultural storytelling. In this presentation, I had to share a story and explain its cultural relevance, history, and significance. Allow me to present a small opening excerpt from that presentation. A long, long time ago, in the island of Java, there were no rice plants. The people of the earth had only grown cassava for their daily food. At that time, rice was only permitted to be grown in heaven. At that time, rice was the food of the gods. At that time, man was allowed to visit heaven by walking on the clouds. The gods and goddesses often came down to earth to chat with man. This small excerpt, just a few lines out of the whole presentation, took me 15 minutes to memorize. And this was out of the full 7 minutes this presentation was going to be. And this was just a few lines. So why was it so hard for me to memorize this presentation? Why did I struggle so much? It's because I admittedly had not practiced it enough. So I did not have the necessary muscle memory that can in turn make a 7-minute presentation much easier to memorize. So I forced myself to practice even more and read the script to myself out loud. And after time, I finally developed that muscle memory I needed that could in turn make a 7-minute presentation much easier to memorize. The third step is present. Now, I'm sure many of you are familiar with this step. This step, you get to get up on the stage and share with the audience the good stuff. Your purpose and what you prepared comes down to this. You prepared a script with the purpose of telling a story? No problem. Now's the time to get on stage and share with the audience your literary interpretation of stone soup. 3 soldiers trudged down the road in a strange country. They were on their way home from the wars. Despite being tired, they were also hungry. In fact, they had eaten nothing for 2 days. "How I would like a good dinner tonight," said the first soldier. "I'm bad, sleeping," said the second soldier. "But all that is impossible," said the third soldier. "We must march on." And on they marched. You start the script, and then you end it. And don't forget to thank the audience for their time. The next step is rate. Now, how did you do? Did you just do okay? Do better? Did you do extremely well? Do even better! Professional speakers get critiqued all the time, from choice of wording to choice of topic. So in order for you to get the feedback you need to improve as a speaker, ICC encourages its students to give feedback forms for audience members, coaches, and peers to fill out. It is very important for you to be able to understand what these people giving you feedback mean in their critique forms. Next step is respond. So once you get back to critique forms, don't forget to thank anyone that might have helped you with your presentation so that no one feels unappreciated. This includes writing a thank you note to the person that gave you feedback. It includes writing a thank you email to the person that let you speak, for school, class, or the church. And last but not least, record. Record all your progress and all the feedback you receive so that you can see where you've improved as a public speaker. It is important to not feel demotivated in the long run. Because remember, slow progress is better than no progress. So the result of doing all of this correctly, hopefully correctly, would result in you becoming a competent, character-driven communicator. C, PQ plus RQ equals C. And once you complete YG1, YSG2, YG3, all phases of the Young Speakers Guild, you graduate into what's known as a guild inductee. This presentation I'm sharing with you all today is the last speech I have to give in the Young Speakers Guild. I'm thankful for my mom for forcing me through this student journey in the ICC. Was it hard? Definitely. But I thank God and my parents for pushing me through it. So hopefully as a result of all their efforts, I hopefully can count myself as a competent, character-driven communicator. I hope you are all blessed by my sharing of my journey in the Institute for Cultural Communicators. Now I encourage all of you to embark and continue your journey to becoming a communicator for Christ. Thank you.
Induction certificate certifies that Samuel Christenday has completed the Young Speakers Guild training series, demonstrating excellence in communication and leadership, influencing the community with competence and character, and is hereby inducted on the 30th day of November in the year 2023. Don't let anyone look down on you because you're young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity. 1 Timothy 4:12, New International Version. So, it is my honor to give you your certificate, and then it is your dad's honor to pin you. So, congratulations.
Father, we just come before you, Lord, and we just thank you. Thank you for the cross. Thank you for sending us your Spirit. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for everything that you do. We know that there's a path that we can go down, but we also know that there's a path that you have for us. And we saw the path here today presented, and we just ask that you would help every student here, every parent, every leader, every adult, communicate your word better to people so that they would know you, understand you, follow you, and ultimately give their life to you. And so today, bless everybody here. We thank you for ICC. We thank you for every single child and teen that presented, all the work and preparation that went into it. And we thank you, Lord, that it was just such a glorious day. We give you all the glory, all the honor, and all the praise. In Jesus' name. Amen.